development of the architecture in Berlin after the reunion. And I think Berlin was seen after the reunion as a laboratory for architects, where every architect thought he could do here in Berlin whatever he wanted. Very important that the idea of the city has to be recognized. I'm open to everything which is new, but somehow it has to, and I'm very keen also to invent or develop something new. But it all the time has to work with the context of the city. It all the time has to respond to the surrounding, to the buildings that we see.
Fantastic building, and I asked them why. What do you think? What's so fantastic about this building? And they said, yeah, because you do a high building in Berlin, so a high-rise building in Berlin. I said, this is not the reason, and this is something I never would do usually, because we have a very intact urban context here in Charlottenburg, which is a block structure, and normally I wouldn't say there's any reason to do such a high building. But if we look around, for example, this building, the Allianz Hochhaus from the 50s, is a building that's in a very natural and normal way. That's with a connection to the block in a very well way to the urban context here in this area. While when you turn around and when you look at this building by Helmut Jahn, this building is nothing. It doesn't react to anything. It does neither react to the materiality, nor to the height of the building, nor to the scale. This is just like a force which you can see here. But the building is very, very long and goes all the way to the Hardenbergstraße. There's no horizontal division. There's nothing. But it is a high building, and because this building was so high, the next client, which is this one, and which is, by the way, the same client as our client, Mr. Grote, he said, look, there's a high building like this, so when you allow those people to build such a high building, then you have to allow me also to build. By law, you can do this. So there was this other high building. And suddenly it means you have the Joachimsthaler Platz, the Piazza Joachimsthaler, and you have 1, 2, 3 for Berlin quite high buildings. And that's the reason why we reacted with our building in the same manner. So now when we go closer to the building here, you see that the building, first of all, connects to the other buildings. So we took up the height of the block on one side. On the other side, you see here, you see that maybe later on we have to see this also in the site plan. You see that you have a monolithic building, so a building which stands in a line of the block, but it's not connected to the block. And that's the reason why this building is, on one side it's a monolithic building, on the other side it's part of the block. So what have we done? And this is something we also have to show in plans later on. You have to know what has been there before. It was a department store by C&R, and this department store was a squared building, a squared box on a triangular shape, so somehow it doesn't fit. They just made it fit by just cantilevering the building into the Augsburger Straße, which made the Augsburger Straße in the same moment very dark. Every second floor, when the further we go up, the more we step back, and we told the officials we do this because we wanted to give the Augsburger Straße more sun. But of course this was only one of the reasons. The other reason, we were very much interested in somehow accelerating this vertical thing, this tower. So the more you step back on this side and on this side, when you go up, the more this tower somehow comes out. So now the use of this building is a hotel. So you have the public areas in the ground floor and the first floor. On the second floor you have a kind of administration and other things, and then up above until the 11th floor you have the hotel, and above that one you have housing and then office. Now when you look at the building, you wouldn't say this is a typical hotel facade, because the windows look more like windows which you usually have on an office building. For us, the shape, in this case, of the building was more important than the elevation. And you see the areas which step back and forward, and we tried many windows. Usually you have, when you think about a hotel window, you have a wide window in the middle, and left and right you have the small windows. And we tried to fit those windows on the facade, but it never worked. It never really worked with the corners and those things. So in the end we said we just do an elevation like that, which is, you can compare it with a Strumpf. You know, the Strumpf, and if you put a certain Strumpf on a nice shape, it makes the shape even nicer. Yeah? So this was the idea. So to accelerate also more the shape, we just said the facade shouldn't be important, but the volume should be important. And the other thing is the horizontal division. We should go closer, and then I can explain you more about that. But what is also important, what you see here when you talk about details, the best details are the ones which you don't see. That means in the moment you talk about a detail, there's already something wrong, because you talk about it. And here, for example, you see something which is very natural normally, but which you don't have everywhere. You have curved windows, not only on the ground floor, the large ones, but also all the way up, even the small ones, which are very slim. They're curved. And when we told the client, look, we need the curved windows, the client, he completely freaked out, and he said, you shit architects, you want to do those expensive round windows, and I have to pay it, and you then show up in this magazines, and I have to pay for it. We are not doing this. And 2 days later, because he was a really good client, he said, okay, we are doing the round windows, and he was very happy about it. This is one detail. Another detail is when you stand here and you look at this elevation. I was here with a colleague. A colleague means an architect. I was here and he looked at this elevation and he asked me, Jan, why have you done this window smaller than the one below? And I said, where? The windows are all the same size. No, this one is smaller. And I said, there is no smaller window. They have all the same size. No, but look here. And then I discovered that he didn't realize that the building is stepping back. And because of stepping back, the window is smaller. But why is it like that? This is like that because usually when you have the terraces, you have a 7 centimeter end of a, like you can see in when you look here, you have or here there on the top of the roof there is a metal piece which is usually 7 centimeter, and this is something you don't have here. Also you don't have this thing below the window where the rain is going down, because the rain is not leaving the window on the facade, but there are pipes hidden behind the facade, so the rain goes back and then it goes down, and that's the reason why we never needed those Fensterbänke. I don't know the English word for this. first of all, again, this issue about the larger and the smaller windows. I think you can see it here very well, that some windows look smaller and others look larger. And I just talked about the detail and how important the detail is. The same are, when you look on the ground floor, the frames or the doors. The doors are 3.40 meters high, so those are real large doors when you look at the restaurant Faubourg. Also when you look at this rotating door or the other door, those are doors which usually people would not build. You would not get the permission from the companies, or not the permission but the guarantee from the companies for doors like that. And also there we could convince the client to build doors like this, huge doors. When you look here, for example, at the Swiss hotel, you see the difference. Yeah, this is like a weak, small door. Somehow it doesn't really has a certain Vandessa doesn't really fit to the building. And I think this is another quite important detail. What you see the regular windows for the guest floor areas, which you can open, but then you see the windows below, from in a ground floor, first floor, and second floor, and you see the gaps left and right of those windows. And we did those gaps out of two reasons. One is a tectonic reason, to give the facade a certain tectonic, but the other reason is that those windows, they weighed almost 1 ton in the ground floor and the first floor. That means there is no way to open them. But still we wanted to have I mean, this is, by the way, a sustainable building, which people usually don't believe. It's a sustainable building because you have a lot of mass, a lot of concrete that would like accumulate the heat and the coolness and so on, and you have a small opening so the sun wouldn't heat up the building. And that's also the reason why we wanted to work with as less technique as possible, and therefore we have those gaps left and the right, and those are small, narrow openings which you can open, which are exactly 12 centimeters, so that the child's heads wouldn't fit through. So, but for the smoke exhaust and for air, it's quite important. I think there are many other things to talk about, but I would like to talk. I would like to show you something here in this end. So I just said that this building is a mixture between a monolithic building. On one side, I talked about the solitary building. It's not monolithic. That is a solitary building on one side, but on the other side, it's a building which is connected to the block, and the connection is right here. And now you ask, why are you doing this connection like that? First of all, this is all the time a problem, because you have a certain grid in the building, and somehow the grid in the end never really fits to the neighboring buildings. And usually people solve this problem by doing a glass joint, because they think glass is not visible, so if you do a glass joint, then you solve the problem. We thought that we should show again that this building is actually a solitary building on the other side, and that's the reason why we did this curve, this stepping back. Again, the client was completely freaking out when we told him that we want to do this corner. He said, "Do you really think that this is necessary? Do you really think that this is necessary? If you're absolutely sure that this is necessary, then we do this. But I tell you, in the end, if it doesn't look nice, I sue you because of ugly planning." So we did it, and in the end he was very happy about this corner. I mean, he was not happy about this corner also because he immediately calculated how much space he would lose and how much rent he would lose per year and 10 years and so on and so on. But when you look at this thing, this is one solitary piece of stone, and I think this is as important as, for example, the horizontal lines. Of course, it's not possible to have one piece of natural stone which wraps all around the building. So somehow you have to find a possibility to join those things, and I think we can look in the details later on. I like a lot this elevation because actually that's the back side of the building. It's not the front. It's almost nicer than the front side of the building. And I think also here we are very, very lucky. We were very lucky with our client because he gave also the money for this materiality, because usually what you have in Berlin is that on the street side you have the natural stone elevation, and the back side you have this kind of plastic plaster, you know, with this Wärmedämmverbundsystem, and he said no, we have to wrap the facade all around, and I think it's a very nice way how the facade steps up, and also here you have all the details which are really important. Just talked about the water exhaust through the inside. That means you don't have pipes on the outside. The water goes through here, and it comes out here. And those are some of those details which I like a lot. This is one piece of natural stone where the water comes out, and this is a way how we try to solve problems like this. Would have been possible also to do it on the streets. Wouldn't have been a problem in terms of the law. But we were afraid that because we had those display windows, that women would pass by and they would hurt their legs, and that's the reason why we haven't done it on the street side. Of course, those are the things that happen all the time when you do a building and you really plan every screw, and then in the end you suddenly get a video camera like this, which they just mount onto the facade. This is very sad. Very lucky here that we had a client and also a hotel operator that accepted us also to be the interior designer, because usually when you have a hotel in this size, especially when you have those brand hotels like whatever Ritz-Carlton or Maritime or Marriott, you have a complete different architecture outside that doesn't have anything to do with the interior design. And what is important for us in the interior design, of course, is that it is in a certain way timeless, so that we hope that in the end people would not see in which year our interior design was done, and we also hope, of course, that the interior design will not rip out after 7 years. Usually in a hotel, every 7 years they rip out the complete interior and they put in a new one, and I hope this will not be the case here. The aim, of course, was to do something that reacts to the outside. That means when you, let's say you come very, very late, you have a very, very long night and you come home and you wake up in the hotel, you would like to somehow imagine what does a building look in the outside. And very important, the interior starts already in the exterior with a roof, which leads you into the hotel. Yesterday, we are very much interested in working in the context of the city, in the urban fabric, and we are not that much interested in doing label architecture. And I think a good example is this project, Hotel Maritime, which actually is a result of a competition. 10 people have been invited to the competition, and the competition was necessary because it was a quite small lot. The lot had only 12,000 square meters. But on those 12,000 square meters, they asked us to do a hotel with 1,000 beds, with 2 garage levels for altogether 500 cars, with a huge ballroom and a second conference room and many smaller conference rooms. So altogether, we had to put on this, as I said, quite small lot, 65,000 square meters gross floor area. So how can you put on 12,000 square meters 65,000 square meters gross floor area? So the first thing we did, we analyzed the surrounding. And the analyzing of the surrounding starts with the projects which are standing around. We have, for example, which you can't see right now, the Bendler block, which is actually a typical block for Berlin. Actually in the past it was part of a whole block. Now it's a solitary building with the eave height of around 22 meters, which is typical for Berlin. The other thing is, what you don't see here is a gallery for the painting gallery by Hilmer and Sattler. Very narrow, very low building, only 13 meters high. Actually for an area which is like a center kind of area, very, very low building. But Hilmer and Sattler, they referred to the master plan of Hans Scharoun, who said the buildings in this area shouldn't be higher than 13 meters. Then there's another housing block right behind this shell house, which was built during the International Building Exhibition in 1968. And this block has also only an eave height of 13 meters, so also quite low. And then you have here behind the trees the so-called Wissenschaftszentrum, the Center of Science, Jim Sterling, which was built also during the International Building Exhibition. And this is actually agglomeration of many buildings, but they look like a monolithic building altogether. So different buildings with this horizontal stripes, light blue and pink. And then finally you have this fantastic building by Emil Fahrenkamp, the Shell House, which was in the past also part of the block. So you have a very, very heterogeneous area, not like the, then you have the Staatsbibliothek, the Staatsbibliothek by Hans Scharoun, which in a certain way influences the whole structure and is a reason for this heterogeneous structure in this area. You also have, when you look around the corner, you have the new National Gallery by Mies van der Rohe. But you see, there are many, many buildings. All those buildings have a certain meaning, but they don't really fit together. So it's a very heterogeneous area. You have the embassy area here. So how do you react to this heterogeneous idea of this area? Our idea was not to add something else which is different from all the other things. Our idea was from the first moment and to do an ensemble, a very quiet ensemble, which maybe also quieten all the other things. And we did this basically by reacting to the building from Emil Fahrenkamp. That means we took over the eave side. If you see this level, we took over the eave side of Emil Fahrenkamp's shell house. What you see here in front is something like 22 meters. In the back, we will see this later on, the building by Emil Fahrenkamp steps down, and also our building steps down to 18 meters. And then you have the tower, which is something like 35 meters. And also there we took over the east side of this tower. That was one thing. The other thing is, what I had to add is that also the tree is protected. So, which is fantastic. You have a complete new building, but you have this very nice old tree in this entrance area, which is just a great possibility to have a nice drop-off area. So I was just talking about the eave side. This is one thing. The other design criteria have been the round corners of the building by Emil Fahrenkamp. What I forgot to tell you is that on this area before there was there existed two high-rise buildings by Paul Baumgarten. Actually, the same architect who did our office, the office where we are based in. Those buildings have been protected, but because there was no way to use them, many expert opinions have been done. In the end, they put the buildings down, except for one little addition, which you see when you look here. You see a new addition to the Emil Fahrenkamp, which is by Paul Baumgarten. So this addition has sharp corners, not round corners, sharp corners. So you have areas where you have round corners and you have areas where you have sharp corners. And this was our basic idea, our basic design criteria, that we, wherever we have round corners, or wherever our building meets the round corners by Emil Fahrenkamp, we answer with round corners, and wherever our building meets sharp corners, for example the ones by Paul Baumgarten, we react with sharp corners. And maybe to talk about the other design criteria, we should one design criteria, which is the sharp corner. Wherever we have the sharp corner, you have this system. The negative joints, you have the round corners, or the other way around. And those are the two design philosophies in this building. And this is actually it. There is nothing more. This is it, and the whole building works with only those two details. And as I just said, direction to the Fahrenkamp building with a round corner here, and our building with a sharp corner here. And in the front, when you turn around, you see here the extension by Paul Baumgarten, and Paul Baumgarten has sharp corners, and we react with a sharp corner on the other side. So when we talk about the materiality, of course the reference is very simple. The shell house by Emil Fahrenkamp is Roman travertine, and of course our first ideas were not to copy the Roman travertine. We thought this would be too easy, but in the end we took the Roman travertine. There's another reference when you look at this roof of this drop-off area. We just talked about the new National Gallery by Mies van der Rohe, and I think I don't have to explain anything more. So they're just small details that refer to one or the other building which are next by. Here on Leipziger Platz. Leipziger Platz is very close to Potsdamer Platz. And I think the difference between the Potsdamer Platz and the Leipziger Platz, at least for me personally, is that the Potsdamer Platz is has an urban context, absolutely, after it was done, but it for me has a kind of primitive atmosphere. It's more about cinemas, about cheap shops and things like that. And I think the higher level Platz, Piazza, is this octagon, this Leipziger Platz, and unfortunately it's still not finished. For example, this building, which looks like a building, is not a building. It's just a scaffolding with some foil on it. The same building here, and here this other building where we won a competition something like 1.5 years ago, and it's probably not going to be built, at least not from us, because the client went bankruptcy. But I would like to say something about this Potsdamer Platz. You know, there was this this was this huge competition, the city planning competition that was won by Hilmer and Sattler. They had the idea of the European city of the 19th century. Later on, there have been smaller other competitions, I mean small competitions. This whole area which you see there is owned by Daimler Chrysler, and this area where you see the glass skyscraper is owned by Sony. This area was won by Renzo Piano. Later on, there was a second competition, and the idea of Renzo Piano was to have one material for everything. He had the idea of terracotta, and he had the idea that all the architects would have to use the same material, which I think is a fantastic idea, because the architects cannot do whatever they want. They have to concentrate on one material, and the architect has to be different, not by using a different material, but by using different details or making a different kind of architecture. So the first person that came to Renzo Piano, who then was the chief architect, was Hans Koloff, and he said, look, Renzo, brick is very similar. Brick is very similar to terracotta. So may I use brick? And Renzo Piano unfortunately said, yes, Hans, yes, you may use brick. And then, of course, next day, Rafael Moneo came to Renzo Piano and said, Renzo, look, the red sandstone is very similar to terracotta. May I use red sandstone? And Renzo Piano unfortunately said also, yes, you might use red sandstone. And this is very sad, because the idea somehow is not there anymore. This building is also a result of a competition. There were 4 competitions in the same moment. One was this one, which was won by Walter Nöbel, by the way. Some of you know Walter Nöbel. This competition was won by Axel Schultes, the architect who also did the Bundeskanzleramt. And this competition, which still is not being built after, I think, almost 10 years, was won by Rave, by Jan and Rolf Rave. And as I said, we had to compete against 6 other people, and our idea from the beginning on was, I mean, first of all, there have been very, very strong restrictions. The kind of material. They asked for a light natural stone. Then the amount of windows compared to the amount of facade. The percentage of windows was very clearly defined. The height eave was very clearly defined, and also the horizontal division was very clearly defined. It was said that in the basement and the first floor you should have public use, then in the second, third, fourth and fifth floor you should have office use, and then above the eave height we were asked to put housing. So we found out quite soon that the height of the building, 22 meters, is the same as the width of the building. So you have a square. So the basement is a square. So now the idea was, okay, we put into the square. Later on we will see some drawings. You can underlay it with drawings. You might know the drawings. And you have the ground floor, the first floor. The ground floor is higher than the floors and the upper floors. And now, how do you work with a square when one level is higher? So what we did, we put in a diagram, and then we mirrored. I don't know if this is the right word. We mirrored along the diagonal this higher level into this vertical area. And so this was our first idea. You suddenly have a grid which was mirrored about the diagonal. And now the problem is when you have something which should neither have a horizontal nor a vertical domination, you need to do a kind of a mesh, and this is what we did. And to underlay the mesh, or to emphasize the mesh, we also had again to work with the materiality, and maybe we go there and we see it a little closer, how you can work with the Roman travertine. Just talking about this woven structure, that one thing goes through and the other one goes behind, and then the horizontal goes through and the vertical goes behind. And now it is about how can you emphasize something like that. Of course you can emphasize this with the joints, that you have the joints either vertical or horizontal, but you can emphasize this also with the stone, with the Roman travertine, because the Roman travertine has a certain quality which is that depending on how you cut the stone, if you cut it along the grain or against the grain, and this one is cut against the grain, and that's the reason why the stone has a very clearly vertical structure in this case, or a horizontal structure in this case, depending on how you put it into the facade. And that's a way how we emphasized even more this woven structure. And actually those are the details we are very much interested in. Please forget about this ugly commercial ads. This is not what was in our idea. We actually had clear ideas to put the commercial ads in the windows. So this is in a way destroying the building. For me it's not easy to say anything about this building by Aldo Rossi. I know it's the last one which was done by Aldo Rossi. What may be interesting about this whole ensemble is that first of all I think it's one of the ensembles which will survive. What I mean is that even if it's kind of very kitschy, it is in another way it's timeless. So it probably might be interesting also in 20 or 40 years. What I think is important is that that the fabric of the city, the dimensions of the different buildings are very much Berlin-like. We just saw many buildings forming one block, and here you have one building forming one block, at least one side of a block. Question how you deal with the city. We just talked about the terracotta, which Renzo Piano wanted to use for the Potsdamer Platz, and this one is also terracotta, it's glazed terracotta. It looks a little bit like a bathroom, like a public swimming pool, but I have to say it's still in a very good shape. Still, it's in a very good shape. I'm quite positively surprised, because usually when you don't work with a natural material like natural stone, Roman travertine or something like that, buildings don't age in a nice way. They just get old and dirty in a certain way. And this building is still, I'm surprised. It's today. I realized it today the first time.